Oh, that song came out when I was in 6th grade, I believe. It's Kiss from a Rose or By a Rose or On a Rose by Seal. And I thought it was the greatest song in the whole world. It was so, I don't even know. I just loved it so much. So I would keep a blank tape in my stereo, so when it came on the radio I could run over and push record, and I probably like had 10 half versions of the song when I finally listened to Casey Kasem's top 10. I used to listen to Casey Kasem on Sundays. Oh, the beauty of being a child of the 90s. Anyway, and so I knew it was coming up, so then I got a whole thing because my mom wouldn't let me buy CDs or cassette tapes. Oh, oh my gosh, I can't get over all the seagulls. I bet you in the 20 minutes that I sit here, I will get at least 1 drop of poop on my car. Poop is raining from the ceilings. Poop. Name that show. Today, we should talk about surgery because that seems to be a good topic of discussion. So, okay, so I had surgery on March 7th at the University of Utah Hospital. I've been going through the bariatric clinic up there. And as you know, if you've been following my videos, that it was kind of a pain in the butt to get a surgery date. If it had been when they originally had said, I probably would have only had surgery like a week ago. So praise Jesus for that. So the pre-op diet, the rest of the pre-op diet sucked, but I dropped like 12 pounds on it, and I was so miserable by the end, oh, my belly button itches, by the last day, that I was just ready. I did cheat on the last day. I ain't gonna tell a lie and pretend like I'm wonderful and perfect. I'm wonderful, but I'm not perfect. I did cheat on the last day, but I am at peace with that. So whatever. So night before surgery, I had kind of like a little last hoorah. No, I had my last hoorah the morning of surgery. I love McDonald's breakfast. Oh my gosh, I love it so much. And so I went and got McDonald's breakfast and a delightful Diet Coke and ate those, and then I didn't eat for the rest of the day because I was like nervous that part of the reason that you are on a pre-op diet is to shrink your liver and make surgery a little bit safer. And so I was like so afraid that it was gonna like make my liver bigger overnight or something. So I was like, well, I just won't eat the rest of the day. Besides, I probably ate my daily caloric intake at breakfast. So I exceeded my daily caloric intake at breakfast. So I just didn't eat the rest of the day. Okay, so then got everything situated and ready to go. And then they called me the day before, and when we had scheduled the surgery, my surgeon told me that I was going to be his last case of the day, and so I wouldn't probably go in until 4 o'clock or 5, and so I was prepared to like fast all of the next day and just be miserable and whatever. But do you like how I prepare for misery? I think if you prepare for misery, it makes misery a little less miserable. They should stitch that on a pillow. Anyway, they called me the day before to give me my time, and they wanted me to be there at 8:30 in the morning, and I was so excited. So woke up, got Blythe to school, and went on my merry way. And when we got there, they checked us right in, and we went back, and I hadn't taken care of my living will, so I had it all filled out, but I needed to sign it, but you had to have somebody witness you sign it, and it can't be somebody related to you, and it can't be an employee of the hospital, and which I didn't know. So I'm itching. So my mom went and found some random person that was like waiting for a family member to have surgery, and she came back and signed it. And then a bunch of different doctors who are my surgeon, like my main surgeon, he has like a team, like an entourage of people, some that I've met and some that just come out of nowhere. And so, not even exaggerating, probably like 6 different doctors came in to talk to me, and then the anesthesiologist came in to talk to me, and they actually ended up having to switch my anesthesiologist because the person who was going to be my anesthesiologist, who was assigned to my case, was actually somebody that I know, and you can't do that. Got a new anesthesiologist. He came in, and so that delayed it just a few minutes. And then finally my surgeon shows up and was like, hey, well, you know, my other 2 cases that I had today weren't able to, one canceled and one wasn't, you know, medically fit for surgery. So here we go. So before we went in, I have divulged into this a little bit, but I have some PTSD issues, and so I'm kind of vocal about them when I go to the doctor. And one of them is I can't be left alone with any male staff at all because it freaks me the you know what out. And also, you have to tell me what you're doing before you touch me, and that's mostly it. So yeah, so I talked to the nurse about it, and she was like, we know we have it all here and blah, blah, blah. And first of all, just a little segue, don't ever be afraid to speak up for yourself and for the things that you need. Like, don't ever feel like you're an inconvenience. I used to feel that way. And so, like, for example, when I'm at the doctor, I can't have the door closed when they leave the room. If they're in there and they have to have the door closed because, you know, you're checking out my nether regions or other things, that's fine. But when I'm waiting, don't close the door. Or, you know, I can't be left, like I said, I can't be left alone with any male staff. You have to tell me what you're doing before you touch me. Some things that you do, like I'll freak out, so you kind of have to talk me through them and whatever. I used to be afraid to stand up for myself, and so I was miserable, but now I'm not, and I speak up for myself. And if they have to go out of their way to help you, that's fine. Like, good medical professionals want you to feel comfortable and want to do what's best to help you get through the experience. So don't ever be afraid to stand up for yourself. Let this be my PSA. I can't even talk. Okay, so anyway, so we talked to the nurse. I talked to the nurse about that and just made sure that she knew that, like, she told everybody that, and everybody knew and whatever. And so then said goodbye to my mom, and I went back and got into the operating room, and that's the last thing I remember. Usually, so I've had 13 surgeries because I used to be a healthy person, but I'm not so much anymore. I've had 13 surgeries, so I've done this, but this is not my first rodeo. And so I like to know, like, for them to tell me when they're going to put me to sleep, like when they're going to be like, okay, count backwards or see you later. But the last thing I remember literally is saying hi to the scrub techs that were in there, and that was it. So I wake up, and first thing I notice is I am in so much pain. So ahead of time, I asked the surgeon, like, kind of what the intensity of the pain was going to be like, and he said, it's not going to be no worse than your hysterectomy. And my hysterectomy was, on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, it was probably like a 5 or 6. It was painful, but manageable. So I was like, I got this. It'll be a breeze. Oh, man. I woke up, and it just felt like my whole, like somebody had ripped open my stomach. Like, I did. I thought for like a second that I had woken up in the middle of surgery. It was not any, oh my gosh. So I knew I was in recovery, and so I was like, and the nurse finally says, Melissa, are you here? And I was like, ouch. Like, that's all I could say was, ouch. Oh my gosh, my recovery nurse, anyway, I think she was just having a bad day. Actually, I know she was having a bad day because of things that happened in a few minutes from anyway, so she's like, well, just hang in there, just breathe. And it started like getting worse, I think, because I was panicking and because I was becoming more alert. And I just started yelling. Like, I was like, help me. I'm embarrassed now, but I was like, help me, because I was just panicking. And usually when I've been in recovery, like, a nurse will be like put her hand on my arm or like rub my arm or be like, it's okay, just take some deep breaths. But this nurse was like, you're fine. And I was like yelling. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm hurting. Help me. And she was like, you're just fine. And so I was quiet for a minute, and then the pain, like, because I was just kind of listening. I couldn't open my eyes yet, and so I was just like listening. And then the pain was just overwhelming, and I started yelling again. Like, I was like, I was yelling. I was like, please help me. And she gets down by my ear, and she says, really quietly, doesn't touch me, but gets down by my ear and says, I'll give you some more medicine when you be quiet. And I was like, what? Like, in my head, of course. And she was like, I have other patients. You need to be quiet. And I was like, and so I said a little prayer, like, to help me to be able to calm down. And then I heard somebody else say, we can't give her anymore, else she'll something, some term for my heart stopping. I can't remember. And the nurse was like, well, give her something. And, oh, I was so mad. So anyway, so I was kind of out of it for a second. And then I came to again because I could hear my surgeon talking. And I tried to open my eyes, but I couldn't because I was still pretty out of it. And I heard him talking like, it went well. Melissa, you're doing fine. It's okay. And then I said, Mom, where's my mom? Because I wanted my mom. And he was like, you'll be able to see her when you're out of here. And I was like, okay. And so then he left. And then I was finally able to open my eyes. So I open my eyes and my nurse is standing there. And she is, and I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I've gone over this story in my head 1,000 times to make sure that I'm not blowing it out of proportion. I'm literally telling it exactly as it happened. So I open my eyes and my nurse is standing there, like, giving me the dirtiest look. And she's like, oh, finally joining us. And I was like, I've been here for a while. I just couldn't open my eyes. And she goes, not even kidding. She goes, are you going to yell again? And I was like, no. And she goes, is your pain managed now? Like, really condescending. I almost wanted to be like, oh, you're so lucky I can't get off this bed. Because I would run away because I'm not a violent person. So anyway, she's like, is your pain managed now? And I was like, yeah, I'm feeling better. And she's all, well, good. Now maybe we can have some quiet. And I was just like, I'm sorry that I'm bothering you. So anyway, I sat there for a few minutes and I said, can I have some ice? And she's like, no, not until your surgeon comes and sees you. And I was almost like, wasn't he just here? But I did, whatever. So, a few minutes later, as I'm sitting there, another nurse comes over to talk to her, and she's like, okay, so I did this, and this, and this. And the nurse was like, okay, and my nurse is like, all right, well, thank you so much for covering me. And she's like, no problem. She goes, I can't believe I'm having to deal with this today. And she's like, he's such an asshole, and blah, blah, blah. And being really unprofessional and talking, I guess, about something that's going on in her personal life. And then the last thing she says before she leaves, she's like, I'm going to kick his ass. And then she leaves. And I was just like, okay, bye. So then the next nurse that I had, she was pretty nice. I could tell she was really stressed because she had to take on some more patients, but she was pretty nice. So I looked at the clock and I said, how long was I in surgery? And she said 2 hours. And I noticed it was like an hour and a half after that. And I said, okay. And I was like, so are we just hanging out? And she goes, we're waiting for a bed to clear up in your room. I mean, upstairs. And I was like, okay. So I don't know how much longer I laid there, but finally she comes over and she's like, okay, well, we're ready to go. You've got a bed upstairs. And I was like, all right. Now, remember how earlier we talked about me not being left alone with male staff or letting me know what you're doing before you're touching me and all of that. Sorry, I got to check what time it is. And all of that fun prerequisite stuff that we had mentioned. Okay, so this is where that comes into play. So I'm sitting there and she's getting all my paperwork done and undoing my leads and, unhooking my wires and I've got leads all over my chest. For those of you who don't know what those are stickers that are connected to a heart monitor. I've got them here and here and I got one down under my boob and one on my side and I am completely naked under my gown. They wouldn't even let me keep a bra on, so I have nothing on, okay? Let's all remember that. And I'm sitting butt naked on the bed and the gown is just covering me, okay? So there's that. So I'm sitting there and she's getting ready to go. And all of a sudden, this guy who's got to maybe be in his, I'd say, very early 20s, and he's an orderly, he comes walking straight over to me. And the very first thing he does is he takes my gown on this side, lifts it up, so boob hanging out, and starts pulling on, like, touching the stickers on my leads. And I was just like, and I was so drugged that I couldn't like really say anything, and I just, oh my gosh, but I was like, I couldn't, my reflex wasn't fast enough to be like, can I help you? So I just was like, what? And then the nurse was like, do you have a catheter? And she pulled my gown up so that all of my undercarriage is exposed. And she was like, oh, you don't. And then left it there. And my arms, like, everything felt like 1,000 pounds. So I couldn't move to, like, grab my blanket and pull it up. And so I said, I'm like, can you cover me up? And she was like, oh, yeah, and pulls it back down. And so then she's like, okay, see you later, and sends me off with this male orderly. Okay, that doesn't seem like a big deal to most people, but I'm really drugged, and I'm still kind of out of it, and I have this huge fear thing happening. So I'm in the elevator with this dude who just came up and helped himself to under my gown, and oh, it was not a fun situation. So by the time I get up to my room, I am bawling, and my mom is, and it's half because of the fear that was going on in my head, and second because I was so heavily medicated. It was insane. So I'm just bawling. So my mom is in there, and she's like, oh, it's okay. And she's like, are you hurting? And I couldn't even talk. And I didn't want to say anything with the orderly there because chances are nobody talked to him, but I still wanted to know what he was doing, checking out my leads. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to talk about today. I get into my room and I'm bawling, and we're going to stop there because you're only allowed to load certain amount of time on YouTube. So we'll talk more about this on Saturday. Thanks for being here. Subscribe if you want to. Goodbye.